If I were a man, I would be Jaime. If I were a man, I could rule this realm in my own name in place of Tommen's. He is in the walls. He killed father as he killed mother, as he killed Joff. Let the imp run to the ends of the earth. He will not escape me. No bells will ring for you, Tyrion. I shall dip your head in tar and give your twisted body to the dogs. Someday I will teach you the meaning of ill luck. The more we give to these Tyrells, the more they demand of us. She is pretty enough, but most of that is youth. Even peasant girls are pretty at a certain age when they are still fresh and innocent and unspoiled, and most of them have the same brown hair and brown eyes as she does. Only a fool would ever claim that she was more beautiful than I.
Your Grace has forgotten the Lady Sansa.
I most certainly have not forgotten that little she-wolf. I ought to have shown her to the Black Cells as the daughter of a traitor. But instead, I made her part of mine own household. She shared my hearth and hall, played with my own children. I fed her, dressed her, tried to make her a little less ignorant of the world, and how does she repay me? She helped murder my son. When we find the imp, we will find Lady Sansa too. She is not dead. But before I am done with her, I promise you she'll be singing to the stranger, begging for his kiss.
One last thing, Your Grace. I hesitate to take up the Council's time with trifles, but there has been some queer talk heard along the docks of late. Sailors from the east, they speak of dragons.
And manticores, no doubt, and bearded snarks. Come back when you hear talk of dwarves, my lord. Tell me, I command it! Command it! The defenders fell back on an inner keep once the curtain wall was taken. Loras led the attack there as well. He was doused in boiling oil. The maesters are doing all they can, Lord Waters assures me, but I fear your brother was too badly burned. Jaime will enter all his deeds in the White Book, and the singers will sing of him for 1,000 years. Catelyn Tully was a mouse, or she would have smothered this Jon Snow in his cradle. Instead, she left the filthy task to me.
I should go to court with you every day to listen. Marjorie says...
A deal too much. For half a grout, I'd have her tongue pulled out.
Don't you say that. You leave her tongue alone. Don't you touch her. I'm the king, not you.
What did you say?
I'm the king. I get to say who has their tongues torn out, not you. I won't let you hurt Marjorie. I won't. I forbid it. It pleases your grace to make a jest, I see.
When I make a jest, I smile. Do you see me smiling? Do you hear laughter? I assure you, when I make a jest, men laugh. I want to share a few thoughts on Cersei before I close this video because, of course, I'm just having fun with those skits and pulling things way out of context. But I do find Cersei Lannister a very compelling character. And for me personally, one of the things that makes her so compelling is how her actions, as horrible and inexcusable as they are, I feel they are convincingly rooted in her deep beliefs about the world and other people. And this is not to say that if everyone believed what she believed, they would do the exact same thing, because I don't think that human behavior is quite so simple, but I still feel like there's a logic there. So thinking back on how she is the daughter of Tywin Lannister, her mother dies at an early age, and she's there with her father and two brothers, and how she's the twin to Jaime Lannister and experiences firsthand that when she dresses up in armor, when she looks like her twin, people treat her differently than if they know she's Cersei. So she witnesses that double standard firsthand early on in her life. And then later on, she has to marry Robert Baratheon, who she doesn't love, and she has to endure horrible abuse from him when he's drunk, which we learn about in A Feast for Crows. And she perpetuates that cycle of abuse with a very skewed perception of power. Now, she thinks she's very clever throughout these books, and we know as readers that she's not nearly as clever as she thinks she is. She's not nearly as clever as her youngest brother, for example. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder how many opportunities did she have to learn leadership skills, to learn tactics and strategies? Did Tywin take her under his wing? Did he confide in her to the same extent that he did Tyrion? I got the impression he didn't. I got the impression that she was made to know her place in the world as a woman. So she tries to take power into her own hands in the ways that women are made to feel they have to take power. And for her, that means her sexuality and that means poison at times. I think that's described as the woman's weapon and motherhood. So it's really interesting to look at the mother child dynamic in this series in general. I don't feel like there is any question that Cersei truly loves her children. I don't think that that could be questioned. Now, would I make her mother of the year? No, probably not. But I do think she does genuinely love her children. Now, Joffrey, I think his leadership skills might have been influenced by Cersei. It seemed that was the case. Although I do wonder how much a role Robert had in the way that Joffrey turned out. I think there's some evidence of that as well. And I do appreciate in this series that children are not the direct representation of their parents, that there is variation. So, for example, Tommen and Myrcella are very different than each other and different than Joffrey. And there's a lot of variation among the Stark children, despite having the same parents. So I appreciate that it's complex, but I think it's interesting too that, that she does try to influence her children for sure. She does try to assert her power in that way, Cersei does. And she's judged more harshly for it. I think that the scene at the beginning of A Feast for Crows when Kevin Lannister gives her his terms for being Hand and tells her that he will not take on that offer unless she goes to Casterly Rock, names him as regent. And obviously, this is very offensive to her. And I wonder, would he make that same offer to Robert? It's a little bit understandable to some extent why she is as angry as she is, even though, again, I don't think it's excusable. And the other thing I want to mention here, too, about Cersei, I feel like this far in the series, we're made to think of her as quite the villain in contrast to her brother Jaime. But what's interesting is that I think that what pits us against Jaime initially in this series is when he pushes Bran out the window. And we learn in A Clash of Kings that Cersei tells Tyrion that she would have never done that she thought he went way too far pushing Bran out the window, that she would have just scared the heck out of Bran into not telling the truth. So I think it's interesting that Cersei would have been much more merciful in that situation than her brother would have been. But again, at this point in the series, I think we as readers are meant to favor Jaime over Cersei. So I think that's interesting because I feel like a lot of the moral questions or a lot of the moral explorations in this series come from the question of would you murder an innocent child for your own self-preservation or for your own power gains or for your own kingdom? And I just think it's interesting that she would have chosen the more merciful choice than Jaime. Anyway, I just find her a fascinating character, and I know there's much more that could be said about her. So I hope that you'll feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.